I am Dr. Sangeeta Roy Moitra under the West Bengal Education Service, currently posted at Hooghly Mohsin College, Chinsura, District Hooghly. Today I shall be speaking on river water pollution. To begin with, significance of water. Water is sustenance of the life cycle. Life without water is unimaginable. In fact, water is life. Ancient Indians knew the indispensability of water for life on earth. According to ancient beliefs, the universe comprised of 5 basic elements: Shiti or earth, Apa water, Teja heat, light, Marut air, and Vyoma ether or space. As per the Rig Veda, all life evolved from water or apa. Pure water was called Divya Jal due to its properties of Shitam or cold to touch, Shuchi, clean, Shivam, replete with useful minerals and elements, Ishtam, transparent, and Vimalam Lahu Shadgunam, acidic balance should not exceed normal limits. Besides, there are copious references to medicinal properties of water. With 2/3 of the earth's surface covered by water and the human body consisting of 75% of it, it is evidently clear that water is one of the prime elements responsible for life on earth. Significance of rivers in the lives of Indians. Rivers have a special place in the lives of the Indians. They consider rivers to be sacred. River water is used for irrigation, which in return gives food to the people. They also maintain the ecology of the region and bring prosperity. An area without a river is considered to be poor. Unfortunately, during the past 2 decades, the river water quality has deteriorated at a rapid pace. One of the major reasons for this is the untreated wastewater being released to the rivers, turning them to be a dirty drain. River water pollution as a facet of socio-economic offense. Although not specifically mentioned, pollution is nevertheless a socio-economic offense. Socio-economic offences are defined as those crimes which either affect the health and material welfare of the community as a whole or the country's economy, and by and large are committed and not by lower class people, but invariably the middle class and the elite of the community, most often during the course of their occupation, that is trade, profession, commerce or business. The socio-economic offences affect not only the health and material welfare of the individual, but also the economic structure and social fabric of a nation. In traditional offences, the motives are usually hate or lust, whereas in socio-economic offences, the motive is greed for money. They are often termed as public welfare offences. Pollution is often caused by the industrialists, factory owners, or even common man by not following the directives of the authorities to prevent, control and abate pollution. For example, use of plastic bags below 40 microns which cannot be recycled is not permitted, but the traders as well as the customers insist on using cheaper versions which play havoc with the environment. Hence, pollution is definitely a public welfare offense as it affects the safety, health and well-being of the community. Significance of rivers and river water pollution. River is not just a channel carrying fresh water, but a hydrological, geomorphic, ecological, biodiversity-rich, landscape-level system that serves as a key part of the freshwater cycle, balancing dynamic equilibrium between snowfall, rainfall, surface water and groundwater, and provides a large number of social and economic services to the people and the ecosystems all through its watershed. Moreover, as ecological systems, rivers have a large-scale directional organization upstream downstream, which leads to their accumulating water and material loads as they flow downstream. Rivers are dominated by active rather than diffusive material transport. Rivers have exceptionally high rates of energy and material throughout. Rivers always contain many other embedded ecosystems, both terrestrial and aquatic. Their spiritual reverence for rivers remain intact, but the physical well-being of the rivers show that we have totally failed in keeping our reverence for rivers. Rapid growth in industrialization to support the country's growing population and economy has polluted our rivers like never before. Studies show that domestic and industrial sewage, agricultural wastes have polluted almost all of Indian rivers. Most of these rivers have turned into sewage carrying drains. This poses a serious health problem as millions of people continue to depend on this polluted water from the rivers. Waterborne diseases are a common cause of illness in India today. The bad effects of river pollution are not limited to human population only. Pollution of river has affected animals, fish and birds population, sometimes threatening their very existence. Polluted water seriously affects the reproductive ability of animal and fish species in rivers, thus making them extinct in future. Although there is no specific definition of river pollution, Section 2 Clause E of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 defines pollution to mean such contamination of water or such alteration of physical, chemical or biological properties of water or such trace discharge of any sewage or trade effluent or of any liquid or solid substance into water, whether directly or indirectly, as may or is likely to create a nuisance or render such water harmful or injurious to public health or safety or to domestic, commercial, industrial, agricultural or other legitimate uses or to the life and health of animals or plants or of aquatic organisms. Hence, it can be seen that in this definition, contamination of water can be said to be pollution when it may or is likely to cause nuisance. Nuisance can be divided into two categories: private nuisance and public nuisance. Though both categories have substantial nexus with environmental management, the law of public nuisance has a predominant position. Section 268 of the Indian Penal Code defines public nuisance to mean an illegal act or omission which causes any common injury, danger or annoyance to the public or to the people in general who dwell or occupy property in the vicinity, or shall necessarily cause injury, obstruction, danger or annoyance to the person who may have occasion to use any public right. Section 277 is a more specific section dealing with water pollution and prescribes the punishment if any person voluntarily corrupts or fouls water of any public spring or reservoir. Section 268 is a general provision, but the Indian Penal Code has no direct reference to river water pollution. India's rivers and streams suffer from high levels of pollution from waste generated primarily from industrial processes and municipal activities. It is observed that 1/3 of the total water pollution can be attributed to effluent discharge, solid waste and other hazardous wastes. Causes of river water pollution. First is acid rain. Rain falling through polluted air absorbs some of the pollutants. Polluted air contains many poisonous gases such as sulfur dioxide, SO2, of nitrogen that react with rainwater to form acids. We call this acid rain. On reaching the ground, the acidic rainwater has many effects. It can release harmful substances such as aluminium and heavy metals from the soil. These are normally present in inert and harmless state, but acidic conditions result into many compounds poisonous to plants and animal life. When washed into rivers, lakes and streams, they can kill small water creatures and fish. Second is industrial pollution. Lot of industrial waste discharged into water are mixtures of chemicals which are difficult to clean up. Increase of the heavy metals in industrial waste water that drains into rivers has resulted in severe river pollution. Some industrial wastes are so toxic that if they are not immediately and strictly controlled, then it will become very expensive later to deal with. Some industries try to cut the cost of safety measures by illegally dumping chemicals at places where they think they will not be caught. This dumped waste then runs off into river along with the rainwater. Third is agricultural pollution. The extensive uses of chemicals in the form of fertilizers and pesticides in agriculture have left the water bodies contaminated with heavy metals. Such heavy metals enter human body through the food we eat, and many of them cause health problems such as cancer. When waste in the form of chemicals or liquid manure enter rivers, the amount of oxygen in the water reduces. Without sufficient oxygen, no life form can survive in a water body. It is also permanently changes the nature of river. Another serious contaminant from agriculture is nitrate apart from heavy metals. Nitrate is found in agricultural chemicals. The fourth one is oil pollution. Careless people can also pollute rivers and harm wildlife by pouring things like used car oil and paint into drains. If oil enters into a slow moving water, it forms a rainbow colored film over the entire surface, preventing oxygen from entering the water. As mentioned above, without oxygen, the river is biologically dead. The fifth one is other sources of pollution. Phosphorus from household waste, water and sewage is another powerful pollutant. It comes from detergents and stays in rivers for a long time where it takes up valuable oxygen. Only few sewage systems are equipped to remove phosphates. Disposal of solid waste, plastic bags and flower garlands into rivers. People defecating in the open and near rivers contribute to river pollution. Animals washing and wallowing in the river. The practice of dumping human remains in the river also poses health threats because of the unsustainable rate at which partially burned bodies are dumped. The dumped dead bodies of people suffering from certain infectious diseases spread pollution and epidemics. Cooling water, radioactive substances, effects of river water pollution. Water pollutants cause undesirable or deleterious modifications of the aquatic environment. Pollution effects vary with the type and quantity concentration of the pollutants. The effects of river water pollution may be summed up by under the following heads. Effects on public health and safety. The pollution effects of water pollution on human being are widespread and range from reduction in recreational value of water to unaesthetic drinking water to serious health hazards. Emphasizing on the latter specifically, health hazards to public from the polluted waters come mainly from pathogenic bacteria due to open defecation on the river banks, toxic materials, chemicals, etc. in the industrial waste and from food and fish that they have lived in polluted waters and are responsible for causing a variety of waterborne diseases, more commonly like cholera, typhoid, fever, bacillary dysentery and gastroenteritis, etc. Viruses in the polluted water causes poliomyelitis, infective hepatitis, etc. Presence of organic and inorganic chemical substances in the polluted water, more particularly heavy metals, pesticides, acids, alkalis, radioactive substances and cyanides are not only toxic, but some of them are highly stable, persistent, having tendency to accumulate in food chains and in human organs and therefore injurious to human beings, animals and plants as well. Specific toxic effects of these substances in human beings vary according to the type, combined effects of various pollutants, frequency of diseases, dosage, tissue concentration and the age of the individual. Several incidents of toxicity are well known to have been caused to the people feeding on polluted fish. Effects on aquatic life. River water constitutes ecosystems of the aquatic biological life. Any alteration in the aquatic environment disturbs the physical, chemical and biological conditions and causes disastrous effects on the aquatic and marine organism. Changes brought about in the physical properties of water. For example, turbidity caused by various types of suspended solids has the effect of reducing light penetration and causing low oxygen conditions in the river beds. This can prevent development of eggs and may also affect the respiratory efficiency of the fish by clogging their gills. Effects on plants and animal life. Water pollutants have enormous effects on plants and animal life. The pollution effects may range from killing or destruction to severe impairments in the life cycles. Presence of solid waste in river beds can reduce sunlight supply to plant life like phytoplankton. This can restrict plant growth by reduction in photosynthesis process. Thermal water pollution can increase the rate of physiological processes of plants in receiving water and speed up undesirable growth of unwanted blue-green algae and fungus. Waste oils, grease in rivers diminish alteration in the surface, destroy plankton. Pesticides concentration in water, particularly DDT, has resulted in eggshell thinning in bird eggs. Cattle, animals and birds drinking contaminated water with high toxic metals, pesticides and chemicals may either be killed of toxicity or accumulate harmful or toxic substances in their tissues. Social and economic effects. Pollution of water sources, particularly rivers, has many economic effects. The economic effects are in the form of damage to property, damage to land, reduction in crop productivity, loss of plants and animals of economic importance, reduced fish catch, navigational interference, reduced drinking water availability, loss in recreational and other amenities, loss to industry and above all costs of illness and deaths caused by such pollution. Keeping aside the accompanying human misery, these economic losses in one way or the other affect the society. Extent of problem in India. Of the various kinds of pollution that affect the quality of life in India, river water pollution is by far the most serious in its implication for the health and well-being of citizens. The extent of pollution in India is too obvious from the fact that all the major 14 rivers are highly polluted. These rivers carry 85% of the surface runoff and their drainage basin covers 73% of the country. To take the example of Ganga River Basin from Haridwar to Kolkata being the largest in the country, occupying about 26% of the total geographical area, is regarded as one unending sewer which is the only to carry urban liquid waste, half-burned dead bodies, pesticides and industrial waste. The Central Pollution Control Board said over 25 years ago that there is no river in the plains area of the country that has bathing quality water. Today, the situation has only worsened. The World Bank describes India's rivers as fetid sewers. Every major and medium river has been dammed many times over, which in every instance means that the rivers would have no fresh water flow downstream from those dams in most of the non-monsoon months. Even in the mountain ranges, the rivers like the Satluj, Bias, Ravi, Chenab, Jhelum, Bhagirathi, Alaknanda, Gauri, Ganga, Mandakini, the Tista and so on are disappearing at most of the locations as hydropower projects divert them into underground tunnels. Not a single small, medium, large or metro city of India operating has sewage treatment plants capacity sufficient to treat the wastewater created by them. Most industries are happy to discharge the untreated effluents into the lands, rivers or aquifers. CPCB had also declared in 1985 that no river in plain area of India has water that can be used directly for drinking water. The report of the National Commission for Integrated Water Resources Development in 1999 noted that almost 80% of the river stretches in India fall in class C or lower, signifying that the water can be used neither for drinking nor for bathing. The situation thereafter has only deteriorated with increase in population, urbanization, industrialization, damming of rivers and increased consumption use of water. The climate change impacts are and will be making things worse. The latest report from the CPCB, namely Status of Water Quality in India 2007, published in July 2008, shows that indeed more than stretches of the rivers are falling in class C or worse. The above examples are enough to understand the gravity of the situation. From east to west and north to south, the plight of rivers is the same. They are badly polluted and posing a threat to human, animal, and plants' life, and as well as entailing a huge socio-economic effect. Extent of pollution and regulatory mechanism. Historically, there have been policy responses for prevention and control of environmental degradation in the country since the 1970s. The environmental policy in recent times has recognized the importance of the role of incentive-based policy instruments in controlling and preventing environmental pollution. State intervenes in the form of legislations and policies and public investments for environmental cleaning activities such as the Ganga Action Plan and the Yamuna Action Plan. Laws for controlling water pollution in India. The Indian legal system provides four major sources of law for addressing water pollution problems. Comprehensive scheme for administrative regulation through the Permit System of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, provisions of the Environment Protection Act 1986 relating to water quality, public nuisance actions against polluters including municipalities in charge with controlling water pollution, and the common right of riparian owners to unpolluted water. Some of the relevant acts and provisions with particular reference to river water pollution include the following: State Irrigation and Drainage Acts, Interstate River Water Disputes Act 1956, River Boards Act 1956, Interstate Water Dispute Tribunal Awards, the Environmental Impact Assessment Notification of September 2006, the efforts at decentralization through the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendments, the Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996. Interestingly, in the British period, there was an act called River Conservancy Act, Madras Act 4 of 1884. However, on reading it, it seemed more like an act to regulate the use of land within the river banks rather than the river itself. The acts that directly concern water pollution in India are the Water Prevention Control and Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Water Cess Act, and the Environment Protection Act 1986. Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. A comprehensive scheme of administrative regulation by creating pollution control boards at the center and in the states has been identified. The basic objectives of this act is to maintain and restore the wholesomeness of water by prevention and control of pollution. These boards have been assigned to promote cleanliness of wells and streams by prevention and control of water pollution. This function is mainly done by the boards by pollution assessment and pollution. The former function is done through surveys which includes inter alia, inventorization of pollution sources, assessment of pollution potential of river basins and sub-basins and effects of polluting activities, monitoring of effluent discharges and data interpretation and quality assurance of the data. The pollution control is done through planning and implementation of control program. Planning includes planning for a long-term pollution control, coordination with state boards, ministries and government departments, and manpower planning and training, whereas implementation of pollution control programs is done through setting or updating of standards and their implementation in collaboration with the respective state pollution control boards, enforcement through legal action, and assisting the governments in the environmental impact assessment for project clearance. Pollution control boards at the central and state levels are empowered to prevent, control and abate water pollution and to advise governments on matters pertaining to such pollution. Central Pollution Control Board is to coordinate the activities of the state boards. The Environment Protection Act 1986 is indeed a very powerful act which gives the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest substantial powers and could have been used to protect India's rivers directly and indirectly, including when projects are sanctioned under the act. Unfortunately, the act has not been used for that purpose even in the most deserving cases. Some other notable legislative provisions are the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, the Forest Conservation Act 1980, the Electricity Act 2003. Relevant institutions that concern the providence of the rivers at the central level: Ministry of Environment and Forest, Expert Appraisal Committee on River Valley and Hydropower Projects, Central Pollution Control Board, Water Quality Assessment Authority, Water Resources Ministry, Central Water Commission, River Basin Specific Organizations, Upper Yamuna River Board, Narmada Control Authority, Ganga Flood Control Commission, Brahmaputra Board, Bangsagar Control Board, Betwa River Board, Ghaggar Standing Committee, Damodar Valley Corporation, Tungabhadra Board, Power Ministry, Promoting Hydropower Projects, Central Electricity Authority, Sanctioning Authority for Hydropower Projects, Government Hydropower Development Organizations, Bhakra Bias Management Board, NHPC, NIPCO, THDC, Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam Limited, state level organizations, departments, Planning Commission, National Ganga River Basin Authority at state level, Environment, Water Resources or Irrigation Power Departments, River Basin Specific Organizations, Bhagirathi River Valley Development Authority, Water Resources Regulatory Authority, State Pollution Control Boards. Thus, water in India is managed by no less than 6 ministries: Rural Development, Urban Development, Agriculture, Water Resources, Food and Environment, and Forests. This results in chaotic and lopsided water policies and schemes. Moreover, water being a state regulated subject, each state is expected to have its own policy guiding water management and allocation of water to the various sectors within the state. However, the national government formulated a national water policy in 2002, following which each state has up to 2 years to draft its own policy. The task has been made easy for the states as they simply use the same policy. While this does ensure uniformity between states, the act that most of these states' water policies are identical means that the states are unique and distinct agrobiological zones on their own states. Now, the judicial response. In Vineet Kumar Mathur versus Union of India, the Supreme Court has also taken a serious view of deliberately violating its orders and has imposed compensatory fine and costs. In this case, a PIL was filed alleging the pollution of Gomti River water due to discharge of effluents from the distillery of the company, Mohan Makins Limited. The court issued orders granting time for removal of deficiencies in the effluent treatment plant of the company. The company deliberately violated the orders of the court. Rejecting the unconditional apology of the contaminators, a compensatory fine of rupees 5 lakhs was imposed on it, with the direction to deposit the same in the court within the period of 4 months, and the said amount was to be utilized for the purposes connected with the cleaning of Gomti River. In MC Mehta versus Union of India, popularly known as the Ganga water pollution case or Kanpur tanneries case, a public interest litigation was filed inter alia for the issuance of directions restraining the tanneries from discharging trade effluent into the river Ganga till such time they put up necessary treatment plans for treating the trade effluents in order to arrest the pollution of water in the said river. The tanneries discharging effluents in the river Ganga did not set up primary treatment plant in spite of being asked to do so for several years, nor did they care to put up an appearance in the Supreme Court expressing their willingness to set up pre-treatment plant. Consequently, the Supreme Court directed them to stop working. Now, the way ahead. Controlling river water pollution is in our self-interest. As citizens of India, we have constitutional duty to shield our environment. Likewise, the government also has a duty to care for the environment for the benefit of its citizens. There are several ways we can protect the river from pollution. Some instantaneous ways to control pollution are: industries should install machineries to eradicate contaminants from their effluents and wastewater. One way to do so is setting up of effluent treatment plant. By this mode, pollution can be controlled at the starting place itself. The towns and cities must also have facilities of sewage treatment plants that clean up the sewage. Proper drainage and sewage systems should also be adopted that will not allow the polluted water to mix with river water. Farmers ought to have give up chemicals and pesticides in farming and must as an alternative adopt organic methods of farming, thus reducing chemical pollution of rivers. Religious practices that contaminate river water must be discontinued. Ban on dhobi ghats alongside the river, promoting community participation in local river cleaning up, organizing awareness programs and meetings on the river pollution and its threats, distribution of literature on the causes and ill effects of river water pollution. To conclude, specifically speaking, pollution or rather river water pollution is not labeled as a socio-economic offense, unlike corruption, adulteration of food, dangerous drugs or even preventive detention. Nonetheless, a look at the offense undeniably leads our understanding to the fact that river water pollution is an outcome of industrial revolution and industrial activity. The wrongdoers are mostly industry or factory owners who do not comply with the legal norms or use such quality materials which are incapable of checking the pollution level, particularly talking of rivers. No cost or benefit from rivers are accounted for in the cost benefit analysis or decision making process in the matters concerning rivers or environment impact assessments or environment management plans. As a matter of fact, right to rivers in India is not expressly guaranteed either through the constitution or any legislation. It is an implied right asserted through a set of laws which confer a duty upon the state through its various agencies and to prevent and control water pollution. Legal embodiment of the priority given to drinking water in the national water policy and the recognition of access thereto as a fundamental right is imperative. The national water policy merely serves as a national guideline, hence there is an urgent need for a review of all laws impinging upon people's basic right to water to make them reflect modern needs as well as expressly take legal measures to check pollution in rivers. A single Ganga action plan or Yamuna action plan is not enough to address this grave situation. When in simple almost cases the states several rivers have died or are in a coma, the need is for a comprehensive law pertaining to river water pollution. Thank you.